Hello everyone, my name is Steven and welcome to Storytime. Today we're going to be reading some malicious compliance stories, tales where following the rules can lead to some just desserts. And let me just say, if you're not already subscribed to Storytime, please consider doing so. But with that being said, let's sit back, relax, and listen to some captivating Reddit stories. We hold you to a different standard. Several years ago, I started working for a medical testing lab in the IT area. We supported the doctor's office looking for results. Prior to this, they had only hired from within, so no one in the department had a background in IT, however, they knew the internal system. When I was hired, they allotted 4 weeks for training. By the end of week 2, I was bored out of my skull and asked to be put on the phones. After a few months, I started blowing their stats out of the water. I was doubling or tripling the number of calls taken and spending way less time on them. Judging from what I overheard some coworkers suggesting people do to fix problems, I can see why. Some of the instructions were just off the wall and made me wonder if they knew anything about computers. Cut to a year later and I'm getting my annual review. I know I've done well. They told me each month what my stats were. However, they gave me average marks across the board on review. What the heck? Well, those people giving the weird solutions also received average marks across the board. Now, this affects my raise, so I'm confused. I had the best stats in the department and should have received a 2-step raise, but didn't because of this. I go back to my manager and ask about the marks they gave me.
Well, we hold you to a different standard and you've been meeting that standard.
I was mad. It just kept repeating in my head. Different standard. Different standard. So I made note of the exact standard everyone else had and started bringing my work to that level. Well, as close as I could get. I still can't bring myself to give bad advice. But if the user needed to put me on hold, I wouldn't argue that pressing the power button only took a second. Just let them put me on hold as long as they like. I even suggested they go help patients and get to me when they could. Took extra time and documentation every second of my breaks. If a coworker asked for help, I would follow them back to their desk and assist them through the whole process, instead of just sending them the directions. Well, come to find out, I had been raising the average for the whole department prior to this, giving the manager a nice bonus every 6 months. Well, with my compliance to that standard, the manager ended up missing a 6-month bonus and I changed jobs shortly after that. It was worth it. I would have wanted to leave like OP did if I was doing the best work, raising the average myself, giving the manager bonuses, and then not getting rewarded for any of it. If you're a standout and you're doing legitimate advanced level work compared to everybody else, shouldn't you get some kind of bonus or raise or something out of it? Forget the whole we keep you to a different standard ridiculousness.
Figure it out and don't come back till you do.
Okay, buddy, if that's what you want. Okay, this story is set 19 years ago. I remember the exact time frame because I was working at this place when the September 11th attacks happened. This place was the office of an interior designer in big city I lived in, and an acquaintance had recently been hired on as office manager, so she brought me on. I was happy to land a job providing tech support and to be earning a decent hourly wage with flexible hours. But little did I know how bizarre this place was. How bizarre, you ask? Well, my acquaintance, the new office manager, was never in the office. The designer, let's call him Boss, was also rarely there. Let me tell you a little about Boss. He was an older guy, 60s easily, which was ancient to my 22-year-old self. He constantly ground his teeth and clenched his jaw, he always seemed distracted, and had a general vibe of just being weird. So I get this new gig and pretty immediately find myself alone in a nice big office space with no onboarding, no training, and nothing to do. Literally come to work, surf the web for hours, go home or to class. Every now and then Boss would randomly come in, ask me to do something vaguely tech related like create a spreadsheet for client names. And then he'd ask me to show him how to do the same thing. I'd do it, he'd be thrilled and give me a bonus on the spot. Sweet, right? Right. Until Boss started coming in and losing his temper about random things. Like the green ink on his printed Excel spreadsheet was the wrong hue, or the office manager had called in and why the heck did she need the day off? or any number of other random things, none of which were my fault and many of which I had absolutely nothing to do with. Boss was ripping my butt a new one whenever he was in the office, which became more frequently. I learned from the office manager that boss had been cleared to return to working more hours by his psychiatrist. Wait, what? Turns out boss was never around when I started because he had a mental breakdown and had been advised to step back from work. So the distractedness? Meds. The teeth grinding? Uncontrollable stress reaction. He even did it in his sleep. It was so bad his dentist was concerned about his jawbone having microfractures. Oh great. So the guy gets back into the swing of things and takes everything out on me. I'm 22, my wife's in grad school, I need this job, but I'm feeling the stress. I'm always thinking about work, stewing over the last thing I got unfairly yelled at about. I'm waking up 3 or 4 times a night for no reason I can think of. My wife says I toss and turn when I do sleep. This goes on for a week or 2. Then boss walks in with a new handheld digital voice recorder. Hands it to me, says, when I record a voice note, I want it to be saved in there as boss date note, and I need you to show me how to use it. Okay, this is actually in my wheelhouse, so I take the recorder, grab the manual, and start tinkering. I come up with a quick how-to curriculum and then read a note in the manual. Voice recordings are saved in the devices vrtimedatestamp.vrn. Once you import them to your PC, you may rename them as required. So, boss's initial request is not possible with the hardware, but there's a simple workaround. I document that as part of my curriculum and go sit with boss to go over it. Naturally, he blows up that he can't rename the files on the device. He can't believe I can't figure this one thing out.
Did I even look at the manual?
He knows it can do what he wants. I just have to do my job and learn how to make the changes. And then...
OP, go home right now, and don't you come back until you have figured out how to do what I want.
Cue my relieved but gleeful malicious compliance. I go home, and since I know that what boss is asking is impossible, I never even consider returning. I don't call in the next day I'm scheduled. I don't go in. I try to forget the whole ordeal. I do begin to sleep like a baby. 2 weeks pass. I've moved on. Looking for another job, doing school, normal stuff. I get a call from boss out of the blue.
OP, you haven't been in a while. Is everything okay? When are you coming back to work? I've got some tech issues I need your help with.
I'm floored. This guy is talking to me like the last time we spoke he wasn't screaming at the top of his lungs, spewing spittle everywhere. So I say, dude, you told me not to come back until I figured out that voice recorder thing, so I didn't come back, because that is never gonna do what you want.
Oh, that? I took it back to the store. So, I'll see you tomorrow?
Nope. I figured I was fired, so I've got another job. Please mail me my last check, but don't call me anymore. Thanks. Bye. And I disconnected the call laughing. It never felt so satisfying to be unemployed. I understand the boss had some issues, but it's pretty much abuse in the situation that OP was experiencing, and I can understand any amount of low requirement work, easy work, whatever it may be, is not worth the money you'd be getting to deal with somebody like that. Tailgater wants to pass me. Be my guest. I commute on a stretch of 95 north of DC, which is routinely patrolled by police. It was just before Labor Day, so they were particularly visible in the days leading up to it. I drive 73 in the 65-mile-per-hour stretch, knowing it's just enough to keep me from being ticketed. Apparently, this was not fast enough for the guy behind me. He rides my bumper for half a mile, flashing his high beams wanting me to move over. We were coming up to the crest of a hill, at the bottom of which is a favorite spot for the state police to stake out. I obligingly pull over one lane as we reach the top. He guns it and speeds past me down the hill, straight into the waiting arms of a speed trap. Whatever your hurry was, you're a bit later now. Dumb drivers get dumb rewards. That's a dumb saying I just made up now, but I'm gonna stick with it because it kind of sounds cool, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Either way, I hate people who are trying to speed like crazy like this tailgating people and trying to just basically do reckless driving. I'm glad that he got busted right away. I doubt someone like you would know. I work in customer service as someone who answers general questions in the form of insurance agreements of the car variety. It's the last 2 minutes of my shift and I am eagerly waiting for it to end so I can be done for the week. I get the dreaded last-minute call at literally the last minute of my shift, and who is it but a gem of a human being? I do my peppy greeting and am immediately met with the favorite Karen phrase. "Can I speak to your manager?" "May I have your account number or phone number to pull up your account?" "No, just put me to your manager."
"Can I ask what you're calling about?"
"No, but you can put me over to your manager." I do apologize, but without any information, I wouldn't be able to transfer you over to my manager. I don't have a direct one either, so without the info, I would be unable to know which manager she needs to talk to. "What's your name?"
"My name is OP."
"Okay then, OP." She practically purrs it condescendingly. "I am looking to get an agreement and I have a question that is a bit above your pay grade, so get me over to your manager." I can answer basic questions, however, we only administer the agreements. Anything involving the purchase process would be handled. "Get me over to your manager." Now I'm done with this woman and any willingness I had to possibly help or advise is gone. She wants a manager so bad, let me get her to the one known for shutting people down with ease. So I do what she asks and she thanks me. What she doesn't know is that the agreement she is looking at buying is incredibly specialized. While the supervisor in charge of setting up claims for the agreement can answer coverage questions, he knows nothing about any sort of benefits or other basic niche information for it. Outside of the department that he specializes in it, which is already gone for the night, mine is the go-to department, and I work the latest shift for mine, and neither of our departments work Saturdays. So in having to be an entitled Karen, she just blew her one chance of having her question likely answered until Monday. Guess she shouldn't have just dismissed me as a plebeian who knows nothing for not having supervisor in my title, huh? I'm just imagining the situation where she goes there, doesn't get help, calls back, and you just get the automated message of, "Sorry, nobody's in today. Our working hours is blah blah blah," and she just has to deal with that until Monday. Just a little bit of just desserts for this Karen. You want me to be on time? Oh, I will be on time every time. I love what I do. I manage a small digital product, and since we have a small team and my area of responsibilities is quite wide, I find myself staying back in office or working after hours from home more often than not. I have worked till 4 in the morning or reached work 2 hours before official working hours begin when I have to, and I never had a problem with it because I knew I have the freedom of taking a break whenever I wanted to. Organization cites time flexibility as one of the perks in their hiring page, which was true until recently when my reporting manager changed. A few days back, my new reporting manager, the owner of the organization, told me to plan my mornings better because I was 8 minutes late to work, and he also implied that the frequency at which I was getting late was indicative of indiscipline. I am 10 to 15 minutes late 6 to 7 days a month due to various reasons. I told them that I didn't agree because I am not affecting anybody else's time or work by being a few minutes late a few days a month. I have never been late to meetings, etc. He asked me to disagree and commit and sent me a Jeff Bezos article that explained what disagreeing and committing meant. So that is what I've been doing now. I have been reaching office right on time every day. The catch is I have been leaving on time too and ensuring I don't work from home. I make it a point to not stay back even a minute extra, effectively decreasing my total work hours. Now I am waiting for him to request a late evening meeting or request me to stay back a little after working hours so I get to deny his requests, citing disciplinary reasons. Honestly, this might be better for OP. They get a little less stress going on, they get to only focus on those specific hours that they are required to work. The only downside is the digital product might suffer because they're probably doing very valuable work for it, across a lot of hours that aren't officially on the books. Bloody mind your own business, if you insist. Had a fun one about an hour ago. Driving on the freeway in heavy traffic to an appointment, I drive past 2 motorbikes riding in formation that I was pretty certain was unmarked police. No high vis, no visible radios, but just gave off that vibe. No big deal, it's raining a bit, wouldn't want to be in their shoes, riding in the rain sucks. My lane's moving a fair bit faster, so I leave them behind and carry on. A couple of 100 meters up, I notice a car on the right of me is texting and driving. More texting than driving. Trying to be courteous, I get his attention to tell him to put his phone down. I figure this way he'll stop texting, get a fright when he sees the police ride past in a moment, and realize how easily he could have just copped a massive fine. Just as good a deterrent in my opinion. He doesn't hold back in the slightest, showing his appreciation.
Are you the police? Traffic is barely moving. Bloody freak off and mind your own business.
60 kilometers is still fast enough to leave a nasty insurance claim, but whatever. I shrug my shoulders and wave to apologize for the inconvenience. He keeps shaking his hand in my direction and looked like he took a photo of me for some reason. Complained to whoever he's texting, I guess? I don't want to be next to this idiot, so I back off a touch to let him go back to what he was doing before I so rudely interrupted. Sure enough, I noticed the 2 bikes from earlier pulling up behind me. Giving the lead bike a subtle wave and texting motion, I point at this guy's car that's now struggling to stay in his lane while he continues his important conversation. Lead bike gives me a nod, pulls up next to him to look in the car. Dude was completely oblivious to them falling in around his car until they put on the disco lights to grab his attention. I gave him a cheeky wave as they were pulling him over, but he didn't even notice I was passing him sadly. Don't text and drive, it's that simple. That driver got everything they had coming to them. Just don't do it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to and watching the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and leave any feedback you can in the comments below and let us know what you thought about these stories. And thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.